Hello, my name is Sherry, and I'm Austin's aunt.
Thank you for being here, Sherry.
You're welcome.
Okay, so today or tonight we're gonna be listening to Antonio Vivaldi's Concerto for Violin in A minor. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you get the idea, don't you? Wasn't
Very
it
nice.
lovely?
Yes, it was.
Wasn't it just great?
Yeah.
Okay, so who was the composer? Who was the composer? I just told you. Antonio. Say it.
Antonio
Vivaldi.
Vivaldi.
Thank you.
How could I have forgotten?
I know. Vivaldi was a very famous composer and violinist in Italy, okay?
Vivaldi.
Correct. Okay. So now you can remember he's Italian. All right, so right here is Antonio Vivaldi. Now, seeing just by his lovely hair and his violin and his face, do you think you would have dated him in your prime?
No,
What if I showed you this right here?
that would be more like it.
In the 18th century, there was a lot of political divide and war going on in Italy. Later in the 18th century, Napoleon came over and he was like, I'm the king of Italy now. He came over and he started running things, and that's just some history. This is Napoleon right here. So there's some characteristics of Baroque music that you need to know. The main characteristics are the basso continuo, which we'll get to later.
Okay.
Important string sections, which you heard in that piece.
Yes, that was very pretty.
It was very important, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Okay. Ornamentations, which you can think of it as a note which has a lot of stuff around it to make it spicy. So you can think of it as a meatloaf with, like, you take a bunch of oregano and you just throw it on the meatloaf, and it turns that piece of hamburger into like a spicy piece of meatloaf.
Right.
So it's adding a bunch of stuff to it.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
good.
Thank you. Or for all the vegan fans out there, it could be the tofu loaf.
Oh.
And you add like vegetables or whatever. Okay, but we're not vegan.
No, we're not.
So we don't understand what that is.
I like the meat.
Me too. Me too.
Arby's, we have the
So that piece had all those characteristics, and those were important to the Baroque time period. Okay? Remember how I said we're going to talk about basso continuo?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is what we know today as figured bass, okay? Figured bass is just this right here. It's a bass line with a bunch of numbers under it, and the numbers just represent what notes are supposed to be played above the bass line note. Okay. This was like one of the defining characteristics of Baroque music, okay? The basso continuo was usually played by the lower voices, which makes sense because it's called the bass line, you know? So those instruments were the cellos, the bassoons, the harpsichord, or the violines, which was a common instrument. Okay, we know that today as the double bass. Now we're gonna kick it over to Timothy James Anna Marie Allen Knight, aka TJ, to tell us about the ritornello form.
Hey Austin, thanks for having me here. So about the ritornello form, it's a couple of sections that alternate between the solo episode, which features the soloist, and then there are the 2D sections, which is everybody in the ensemble playing the tune. These 2D sections, its function is to indicate the structure of the harmony, making sure the key is understandable, and they switch from time to time, so it's really important for the harmony to be identified. The beginning and the very end, they have to be 2D with everybody, and they have to be in tonic, which in this case it's A minor. With the solo episodes I mentioned earlier, their function is for the modulations that happen with every solo episode, and this is done by using all kinds of scales, arpeggiations, and you might even borrow some stuff from the ritornello melodies that occurred from like earlier in the piece. Thanks for having me.
Wasn't that ritornello form interesting?
Oh, that was great.
It was pretty great.
Yeah.
So the genre of the piece we just listened to is a concerto, where one instrument or the family of instruments, so like the violins, it has the solo section, and the rest of the orchestra or band is just accompanying the solo. It's important to know that the accompaniment is contrasting to the solo. Okay. What did I just say? What is important to know?
But the music behind the solo is the contrasting music.
Say that word again.
Contrasting?
Concerto is broken up into 3 movements. The first one and the third one are fast. The first and third also use the ritornello form, like TJ mentioned. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Yes. So the third movement is it's shorter than the first movement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the second movement is slow and it's in a related key to the first movement. The first movement is in the tonic key, which a related key to the tonic key is just one that has a bunch of the same notes. Let's just do a little recap here. So the piece was called what? Let's just move on.
Okay.
There was a lot of political divide over there, remember? I talked
Yes.
about that. We talked about Napoleon came over and he was like what?
I am your captain now.
That's correct. Good meme. Okay, so remember how I talked about how the genre is a concerto?
Yes.
That's important to know.
Okay.
It's broken up into 3 movements. First and third are fast.
Yes.
Second, slow.
Yes.
Third is shorter than the first.
Yes.
Second is in a related key to the first.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Okay. And it's important to note, okay, that the first and the third movement have the ritornello form that we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me something about your musical background?
I have no musical background.
So you've never even played an instrument or anything?
Lord, no.
What type of music do you listen to in your free time?
All kinds. Sometimes orchestra music.
Okay.
Sometimes like Jimmy Buffett.
Okay.
Sometimes Blurred Lines or
Wow.
Uptown Funk.
Wow.
Those kind of things.
Those are the soccer mom anthems
those-
of like 2010.
Okay.
Those are pretty good. So you're telling me you don't listen to any like concertos or sonatas or madrigals?
Not usually, but sometimes I enjoy them.
Okay.